Hello everyone. Today I've been requested to recreate a movement system from a different game. It is this Dead Seater that's made by the creator of Lethal Company. So in this we've got uh, tank controls, but left and right is strafe, and we can use the mouse to look around and we can look up and down. So we're going to recreate that today. So the first thing I've done is I'm just using a third-person character template for now. Remove some stuff, but you would basically follow my tank controls tutorial, and then you could follow on from here. So the first thing we're going to do is do the strafe, which is probably the easiest thing to do. All we do is we add movement input, connect that up, connect that up. From the X, we are going to multiply, and then here will be we'll promote this and we'll call it strafe speed. I'm going to use compile. I'm going to use 0.5 so we have a slower strafe. And then I'm going to hook that into scale value. The world direction, I'm going to right click, get, control, rotation, pull from right here, get right vector, hook that up. So now we have the left and right strafe. So we want to be able to spin the camera with the mouse. So for this, we will do IA underscore look, which is the built-in one for Unreal Engine 5.4, which is what I'm using. For the camera, we're going to add controller your input, and then we can put that, we can split the action value, and then we can put that into, I think it's the X, let's see. So yeah, so if you've used the other tutorial, you won't have this. You'll have with the static cameras and stuff. This is just because I'm using this. But now we have this. We can look around. We can do like this. So the next thing in this game, you can look up and down. So I'm going to add this as well. So for this is a little bit more in depth, but it's not too hard to set up. So what we'll do first is we'll create a line trace system just so we can have something you can visually see. And then if you wanted to like be able to look at objects on the floor and such, this is how you would do it. So we're going to call this, just call it head trace. The first thing we will do a line trace by channel. Now you can do any other traces. There are multiple. There are sphere traces, capsule traces, box traces. I'm just going to use this one. We want to get the player mesh from here. Get socket location. Now I know the socket location for this one. If I open this skeleton, I want the head, and if I search head, oops, here we have the head, and this is what I want. So if you're using a custom one, just check which bone you actually want to move. So you maybe want to move the neck for a bit more like dramatic or something. So the socket name, we will use head. That will be the start. To get the end, we will pull off from here and do plus. We'll put that in, and then there's a little bit more we need to do. So to get the correct location for the trace, we're going to actually add an arrow, and we're going to drag this onto the mesh, and then we can parent the socket to the head. and then just reset the location. So that looks fine. Maybe a bit higher, so let's turn that a little bit higher so it's sort of coming from the eyes. Now this won't be seen in game, so you don't need to worry. But back in the head trace, from the arrow, pull off from here and get world rotation. Then from here, we want to get forward vector, then multiply. Now this value, we can right click and to float. This value is how far you want the trace to go. I'm just going to do 1,000 for now for testing. And then we can put that into there. Draw debug, I'm going to say for 1 frame. So now if I try, oh, it won't work because on the event graph, we don't have it, the event tick. So this happens every frame. We're going to do the head trace. So now we have this trace that will move with the character's head. Like if the character's running, the trace will actually move as well. The next thing is going to be the movement for the head. So this is the bit that's a bit more in depth, but it's not too bad. The first thing we need is a float variable called head look or something like that. So from this IA look, we're going to do a thing that will get the value of the head looking up and down. The way we're going to do this, we're going to use a node called get mouse position on viewport. And we need get viewport size. Just so we don't have to deal with any issues with like larger screens, smaller screens. It will make it so it works for every size of screen. These two nodes we need to split. And we can connect the get viewport position on viewport to after here. So we can put the get mouse position, sorry. So from the get viewport scale, from the Y, we need to divide by 2. Just put those like that. Then we need to do another divide. And we want this here, so Alt to click, to be on the bottom node. The top one will be the Y from here, minus. And then that'll be the top node, and then the bottom node will actually be the divide here. And into this now. So this divide here, we take here, in this. So we're basically minusing return Y with a divide from return Y of viewport size into another divide. And this will basically make it so we get the rough center of the screen so we can figure out where the mouse is. Now from here, we want to, from this one here, we want to pull off and map ranged clamped. So we will take the value of the mouse and then convert it into actual degrees for the head to use. So the top one will be -1. The bottom one will be 0. The out range A will be -45. And the out range B will be 45. Then we take the head look and promote it to a variable. Connect that up to mouse position on viewport and then that to that. So now if I do a print string to test it, so when I scroll up, we get a value. When I scroll down, so we get 2 values of head movement. So the next thing will actually be to make the head move on the model itself. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to change the mesh because I want to use the Mani one. and make sure you set Mani as the anim class for this. So you can click on this browse to asset and open Mani. So in the Mani, we want to, this shouldn't be here. So what we need to do is on the functions, we can click override and thread safe update animation. And this means that we don't need to worry about casting or event tick getting the variable. We can just use this. And from here, we want to right click and do property access. So we can access properties from the character. The bind here, we're going to go down to character, and then we're going to find the head movement. Now, if it's not here, we need to change this reference around. So what we do here is we can delete these two nodes and do cast to third person character. That's the base one. And hook this up, promote this to a variable, and then just hook these two back up. And this one we can get rid of. Drag in this, right click, convert to validated get, and then hook this back up like that. So everything else should still work. The animations should still work. What we can do now, we should be able to do, is come back into here. We should be able to refresh all the nodes and then click this bind. We want third person character. And now we want to find our head lock. There we go. So now we have head lock here. Promote to a variable. Call this head lock. And then save it. So inside the anim graph here, we're going to break this here, this default slot, alt click, drag out, and use, just type bone. Maybe, no, is it modify, there we go. Transform modify bone, and then we connect this up. We were missing this part, that's why. So we can connect this up like this. Let's just drag this out a little bit. Like that. Click on the modify. We want to modify the head. Like that. So the translation, we can unpin. We don't need that. And we don't need the scale. So we can on that. The rotation, we want to add to existing. And then the rotation here will be the headlock rotation. Yeah, we can drag off and take make rotator. We only want to rotate the X. We can hook that up into the rotation like this. And then save. So now if we play, we move our mouse up and down, the head of the character moves up and down, the line trace follows the character's head, so we can look around. So if we go back to the game, so we have the strafe, we have the looking up and down. So that's it. You can build on this, obviously. There's different ways you can modify it, but this is the basic logic behind very simply recreating Dead Seater. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next video.